of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Cassie, do we have roll call, please?
Sure. Trustee Gergen?
Present.
Trustee Rhodey?
Here.
Trustee Belt? Here. Trustee Krasovich?
Here.
Trustee Roberts?
Here.
Trustee Grabowski?
Here.
President Knutson?
Here. Okay, item 2 on tonight's agenda is public hearings. The first one is a public hearing on ordinance, number 2023-16, ordinance to amend section 40.471 of the Village Code of the Village of Pewaukee regarding the regulation of transient commercial lodging uses in residential districts. I hereby open up the public hearing. Is there anybody in the room that would like to speak on that? Questions, comments? Okay, we'll close that public hearing and go to the second one, which is a public hearing on ordinance number 2023-17, ordinance to amend Chapter 40, Article 6, Division 22, floodplain zoning ordinance in the Village of Pewaukee Municipal Code. I hereby open up the public hearing on that particular subject. Anybody here that would like to make a comment on that? Okay, close that public hearing. Next item is the approval of the regular village board meeting minutes, August 15th, 2023. I hope everyone's had a chance to go through them. Are there any questions, comments, corrections as the way they are presented this evening? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve as presented. Motion, Rhodey.
Second, Krasovich.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Minutes are adopted. Item 4, citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to share their opinion with board members on any topic they choose. However, due to Wisconsin open meeting laws, the board is not able to answer questions or respond to your comments. All comments should be directed to the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers are asked to use the podium and state their name and address for the record. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am. Please.
Hi, my name is Roberta Reed, and I live at 530 Kottmeyer Drive in Pewaukee. This morning, you might have noticed, but I sent an email to Scott Gossi, Dan Nays, and Jeff Knutson asking for help in collecting the weed bogs that have landed along the Kottmeyer shore line on the east end, and I'm just backing up that email by appearing here tonight. I did attend the August 16th of 2022 board meeting along with 8 other lake residents, and we all expressed our concerns on how poor the weed collection was last year, and a few of us are here again tonight. For this year, the weed collection, for some reason, didn't start until June 15th, and I'm just wondering why was that so late? And again, they only did weed pile pickup, which we understood was going to be, and no workers entered the water. But now the summer help has left about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now there's only periodic weed pile pickups. So now we're faced with the same problem. Tons of lake weeds are blowing to shore with no harvesting of them, and making weed piles is physically impossible because they're so thick. So for the current situation, my questions are, can a harvester come out? And maybe can the sanitary district help? And for the future, will you be purchasing new equipment? Because I do understand that there were mechanical breakdowns this year. And then also, will you be hiring more help for a longer season? And I realize that you can't answer my questions in this format, but I just wanted to put them out there anyways. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else that would like to make a comment? Yes, Miss.
Jody Zellinger, 538 Kottmeyer Drive. Same issues. Our weeds are absolutely horrendous, but I do want to say, Jeff, thank you for getting the kids out there when you did, because they did a fabulous job when they were there. They were very kind. They were very thorough. They did great. But now because our season, like Bobby said, was from, June 15th until the middle of August. Now, we can't get our boats in and off the lifts. We can't use our frontage to swim in. We can't do anything because physically we cannot lift those weeds out. When we talked to the weed guys last Friday, we asked them to bring the cutter one through so that he could scoop up as he came into shore to pick up the piles. And they told us that the cutter one was broken again, which seemed to be the issue all of June too. They didn't get out there. I sent you an email that the weeds were already to the top of the water like we thought they would be. And they said, well, we can't cut because that is broken. So I know you purchased a new conveyor. Can the residents, I'm sure the residents on Kopmeyer and other areas will help you if we can figure out some way to purchase new harvesting equipment. And I know hiring is going to be an issue. I'm willing to help you with that too, if you can think of something that we can do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time? Okay, thank you for your comments. Item 5, ordinance, discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2023-16, ordinance to amend section 40.471 of the Village Code of the Village of Pewaukee regarding the regulation of transient commercial lodging uses in residential districts. Scott?
Yeah, this is an ordinance that originated with the village board at a meeting earlier this year that was referred to Plan Commission. The Plan Commission reviewed it. Concern was just to ensure that definition of residential properties was adequately defined to incorporate properties within a PUD or legal nonconforming or mixed-use developments. Attorney Blum drafted the ordinance language that was referred to the Plan Commission. Plan Commission reviewed it at a prior meeting and is recommending adoption to the village board.
Any questions or comments as it relates to the ordinance? Is there anyone that would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-16 regarding the transient commercial lodging use in residential districts as presented.
Second, Rudy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excuse me, ordinance number 2023-16 is hereby adopted. Discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2023-17, ordinance to amend Chapter 40, Article 6, Division 22 floodplain zoning ordinance in the Village of Pewaukee Municipal Code. Scott again.
Sure. This is coming to us from FEMA and Wisconsin DNR with regard to updating of floodplain mapping and model ordinance language. Tim Barbeau, our consulting engineer, is here this evening to assist with discussions on this. His staff memo wasn't presented to the Plan Commission and is incorporated in your packet. Plan Commission did review the information provided by Tim and did forward a recommendation to the village board for adoption. Tim's certainly prepared to go over highlights of the changes if the board desires.
Are there any questions or comments as it relates to the ordinance 2023-17? Again.
You mentioned there's no, in your summation of it, there's no real significant impact from changes floodplain to existing layout, correct?
I would say that that's correct. Yeah, that is correct. There's no significance. We adopted the model ordinance. It's basically the same ordinance with some enhancements with some of the language. There is one policy or part of the ordinance that has been added, and I'll just highlight that. That's a section where if there are non-conforming structures or uses in the floodplain, those used to be, if someone wanted to make repairs or remodel, they can only do it up to 50% of the current value of the home, the assessed value of the home. And so the DNR did allow an option to include language that would allow non-conforming structures and uses to remain and actually exceed that 50%. They call it the 50% rule, but exceed that 50% allowance for the amount of repairs and remodeling that they can do. And the Plan Commission did make a recommendation to include that language in this code, so that if there's someone in the floodplain that wants a non-conforming structure in the floodplain, then and they want to put in up to, let's just say, 80% of their value to improve that, this code would allow it. They would still have to meet all the rules and regulations of FEMA and DNR and our code, but there is the option that they can do that without having the limitation on 50%. That's really a policy decision. You don't, some communities are not including that. They're going to stick with the 50% rule in order to more or less get rid of homes and uses in the floodplain that they don't want to have there long term. So other than that, yeah, there's pretty much a lot of different language, but it's floodplain rules and we have to follow them. So.
And the rationale, quite honestly, in the discussion with the Planning Commission was that we have so many properties that are between the river and the lake and other areas that are, either right on the floodplain or in it. And before we ever had these kinds of ordinances before, and
a lot of them are non-conforming.
And many of them are legal non-conforming. So, if something happened, a fire or whatever, they'd be screwed. So really, it's just to give those people the opportunity to basically keep their property if something happens.
Any other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-17 to amend chapter 40, article 6, division 22 of floodplain or zoning ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ordinance number 2023-17 is hereby adopted. Item 6, resolution, discussion and possible action on resolution number 2023-14, a resolution committing to required funding for the Pewaukee Library and requesting exemption from the 2023 Waukesha County Library tax levy for 2024 purposes. Scott?
So, yeah, this is, I guess, an annual resolution presented to the village board and stating that the village board agrees to be compliant with the minimum funding thresholds for funding of the Pewaukee Public Library, as it is a joint library. It's the averaging of the prior 3 years versus otherwise looking at an equalized value component and the tax rate. So the budget, Nan will be going over later, does comply with the minimum funding threshold, which is outlined in the resolution. And action request of the board would be to adopt the resolution.
Any questions or comments? If not, I'd like a an action.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-14.
Second, Rudy.
Here we have a motion to adopt and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 2023-14 is hereby adopted. I'm going to jump down if everybody's okay. We have people in the audience. Come back to the food vendor and the other two. Discussion and review of draft 2024 budget related to police department and joint library. I will ask the board, are there any questions as it relates to the police department or the joint library budget draft for the people that are sitting here this evening, for Nan or the chief? Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes.
Couple, just some of its clarification. We know we're going through negotiations with the union right now, so in the in the budget here for salaries is anticipating a certain increase, or what were we using for salaries in the budget?
I've got an assumed plug number in there, knowing that there is collective bargaining, but just to run a number, I've got a 3% number.
Okay, all right. And if, you know, we know there will be some increase, so the contracts we have with the school and WCTC, will the reimbursements from them increase correspondingly to that, or are we locked into whatever rate we had with them?
No, it's the reimbursement from WCTC and the school district conform to the actual salary being paid.
Okay,
So right
that'll
now it's
adjust
in-
automatically then?
They would adjust
Okay.
automatically, yes. And the same for health insurance. There's an assumption in there at this point. We understand from employee trust funds that they've set the premiums, but they haven't distributed those numbers yet. So there's an assumed number in there, and that calculation would also be updated and adjustments in the budget once we know what that number is.
Okay. On the summary here on page 11, there's one line item I don't understand. It says Waukesha County Treasurer. I don't know why. Waukesha County Treasurer would be listed in the police budget.
Oh, that ties to page 10. That's a continuation of police communication expenses. So WCC is Waukesha County Communications,
I see, okay.
and the Waukesha County Treasurer is the one that sends that invoice out.
Got it, okay. And right now, in there, in the budget, looks like we have funds for the deputy chief position,
That is currently a vacant position at this
Right.
point, pending.
but that's loaded in there right now.
That is assumed, yeah.
Okay. And is there thoughts in terms of, are you looking to fill that position, or are you looking at kind of repurposing it and backfilling some of those functions, but not at the deputy chief or lieutenant level?
It's been backfilled. Right now, we have an acting deputy chief, which is Brian Foth. We have acting Deputy Chief Brian Foth, who's been in that position since January, when Mark Gary retired after 33 years of service. We were going to fill it when we're at fully staffed. We should be fully staffed in September of this year. We're mid-September. We're going to hire another officer who has prior experience from Kenosha. Brett Marcoux is back in September also, so this will be the first time we actually have all the members. We also did not want to do a process until Brett Marcoux, who has over 5 years' experience, to determine if he would be interested in being a sergeant. So we haven't filled that sergeant position because we haven't done the deputy chief, so we have 3 sergeants, and then once we make a promotion, then we have to put a sergeant in that place. So not saying, I don't know if Brett Marcoux is even interested, but why waste our time with a process until we have all our members here? We're fully staffed, and now we move forward. I will say Brian Foltz has done an outstanding job. I mean, he's comes in with 20 years of experience himself as a police officer, now as a sergeant. He is versed in everything, so it's been a nice transition, and we've done well in our past year without Deputy Chief Gary here, which was a huge loss.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Are there any other questions or comments relating to the draft budget, either for the library or for the police department? If not, then we'll move on. Thank you both for coming. I'm sorry you came and didn't get to, if you want to say something, you can come up and.
Come up with questions if you want us
They
to.
can stay. It's fine.
I just like the budget so far. Okay.
Well, and, let me say, Scott, that this format, I don't know if part of this, the output is from the new software or not,
Yes.
but this is so much better. I mean, the summary's great, but also just everything's in the same format. I mean,
So that's the
was
same
great.
format you'll be seeing for the other funds, utilities. So the only thing I miss out of it is having that that breakdown by intergovernmental and all those other things, but I'm only used to seeing that for 20-plus years.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it's my sixth budget or if it's because of the format, but I'm like, this isn't that hard to go through.
But no, and the nice thing too, and Nan and Chief can speak for themselves, but having that breakdown by the account, some of them you get to, we just plug that in and that automatically populates what that line total is for all the sub-items in there. And Cassie too, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you.
Yeah,
So
this was much better. I don't know if anyone else thinks that, but I thought it was a vast improvement.
Good.
Thank you, staff and department heads, for that. Okay, we're going to go back then to item 7. I would like, if you so desired, a motion to remove from the table discussion and/or direction regarding the food vendor licenses and special event permitting processes. Do I have a motion to remove from table that discussion?
Motion to remove from the table.
Second, Krasovich.
Roll call vote, please.
Sure. Trustee Gergen?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodey?
Yes.
Trustee Belt?
Yes.
Trustee Krasovich?
Yes.
Trustee Roberts?
Yes.
Trustee Grabowski?
Yes.
President Knudsen?
Yes. Okay, we have, Scott, you want to start us out then? Oh, I'm sorry, Cassie.
Okay. Okay, so we are bringing back the food vendor discussion. I went on clerk's list and tried to get what other people are doing. I didn't get a whole lot of responses, but some of them, but mostly for food trucks. A lot of people allow those, we don't. So I asked all the Waukesha County clerks, I just sent an email to all of them, got the feedback that's listed in the memo, and kind of talking through with Scott and other staff, I think it might be better just to put the food vendor questions into the special event permit. It puts everything in one spot. Then if it's the Kiwanis, you know, they're kind of listing that out and making sure everything is done. But then also charging for that if you guys choose to do so, because it does take us some time to go through the special event permits, not only from like staff, but also staff time, putting up the barricades and the signs if we need them and stuff like that. And then we're going to be recovering some of that money for discussion.
Questions, Bob?
Yeah, so I think I had started out discussing this a few months ago because out of concern that we were treating community nonprofits the same as we were treating out-of-town for-profit entities coming in here. Now I believe Mark informed us that we have no choice. That's the impression I got. We can't do a two-part system. Even though we do that, we charge residents and non-residents different over in Park and Recreation. I don't know why we can't do something similar when it comes to food and licensing. If we can't, I guess I understand that, but it just seems strange we can do it on one side and not over here, having to do with that, so.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Jim.
So going through it, it did seem that a fair amount either have no process or they default to the county or state licenses that are already issued, which is what I've heard from food vendors in the past, is that they're covered by state inspections, their county permits that they need to acquire, and they were never happy that the village had another separate step. It also is an incredible burden when a nonprofit or any other group is trying to put on a special event and there's changes to food vendor at the last minute or what have you, and this is also a hindrance to that. I was questioning, I may have missed it though, because in your recommendation it said, or in the summation it said, proposed cost special event permits will cost roughly $200 based on the time it takes to review. What is the current cost for a special event permit? Because honestly, I believe back when we did events, it was zero for that, and it's $10 per liquor license for a special event. or something like that.
Yeah, it's $0 now.
I would be inclined or in favor of rolling the food vendor portion into the special event one and doing a small fee on the special event permit if it allows for flexibility for that event coordinator down the road. I don't care if it's $50, $25, whatever, something, obviously more than zero, but we hold it to, just like a lot of the other ones, that food vendors are required to have state licenses and county licenses, like, they're supposed to. And then our portion of it is rolled into the special event permit.
So would we be able to charge a different fee for the permit for nonprofits versus profit?
I would tend to think no, because you're making a discriminatory choice based upon the identity of who's applying for the permit. I get the resident, non-resident distinction, and I think that's allowable because that's geographic. But when you get into finances and who's the profit versus nonprofit, I think that line gets a little blurred.
I don't think that's blurred at all, Matt, with all due respect. I mean, that's clear as day by the federal government if you're a 501c3 or 501c7 or any other recognized non-taxed nonprofit entity. Opposed to me showing up and going, hey, I'm Jim Grabowski, I want to get a permit. That's a private entity. So, but when I represent my nonprofit, I provide a actual tax ID number that's clear. So that's not a gray area.
I agree the distinction's clear. I guess rather than giving an off-the-cuff response, I would rather look into it more to see if that's a distinction where we can actually make that distinction and put some meat on the bone there.
Because this distinction is understood.
The distinction's understood, it's whether it's an allowable
Whether it's
distinction.
appropriate for us to say, oh, we like you better because you're not for profit, so we're going to charge you at a lower rate or not charge you at all.
Correct. That's a good way of framing it.
With regard to special event permits, those are only by code able to be issued to local nonprofits. And there is a definition for local nonprofits and provided in the code.
So when a group does one of the triathlons or something like that, not all of those are nonprofit.
The sponsoring entity historically has been Positively Pewaukee
Right.
for that, so that they fall under, the Kiwanis falls under as a local nonprofit for the beach party.
Right.
So as long as the sponsoring entity is a local nonprofit,
Well-
they've been able to be processed.
Okay.
Have we ever had situations where a food vendor wants a permit that's unrelated to an event sponsored by a nonprofit?
We've had people come in and want to get a permit to sell popcorn along the sidewalk on the lakefront or those things, and we're like, can't do it. And if they want to go onto private property, they need to apply for a conditional use permit that has to be signed off by the property owner.
And, sorry. Well, at Menards, I don't know if you guys remember, but there's a fruit truck twice a year, something like that, so that's another one off, I guess.
We already do have existing ordinances that protect us from the random food truck or random food vendor showing up outside of food vendor permit that is required. Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah, I don't
determine
wanna- yeah, I don't wanna-
is there a need beyond?
I don't want to say we're making a mountain out of a molehill here, but I kind of feel that way in the fact that we're already pretty well structured my personal take is that we're pretty well structured in the village in terms of what we allow and what we do not allow from mobile vendors, special events, organizations, everything. And that's what I'm saying is when we were throwing in this other food vendor license, I just felt like it was just adding to the pile and the red tape you had to get through to put an event on here. And that wasn't really necessary because we already had, in my opinion, duplicate coverage with other ordinances and such that doesn't allow somebody just to randomly start selling in the village. So basically we're trying, with this, I felt that it's like, okay, we're just making it a little bit harder for the people trying to do this correctly.
And and by doing this, and if we were to charge the $200 that Cassie's suggesting, then that makes it even harder for them, and they won't be able to, make as much on their event, and it just makes it more difficult for these nonprofits. So I don't feel very comfortable doing that.
So under the proposal, or what you're thinking about essentially, and I understand if we're closing down a street, we need extra police, things like that for a special event permit. What about something where we're in the parks? Let's say we're talking about American Legion or VFW, where they have a one-day event, and we have, you have nonprofits that are working there. We're talking about forcing them to do a special event permit?
That would go through the park, doesn't it?
Well, it depends. In certain cases, it might be both. The special event trigger is, I think, crowds anticipated over 500 or 1,000, alcohol sales involved, and a third one would be a closure of a road. So if an application or event would check one of those boxes, then a special event permit application would be required and would then.
Any one of those boxes, or all three of them?
I believe it's any one of them. So then it would come before the village board for approval, as they've done in the past, because there's an event this coming Friday, that's a park rental.
Just Friends of the Park event.
And I think if I'm remembering correctly, the annual Memorial Day, I forget if that one's a special event or if that's a park rental. When they,
Oh, the car show.
years ago, when there was this called Spring Fling, that was a special event permit similar to Taste of Lake Country and the beach party and the sport events. But again, depends on which box, if there are any that are checked.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any direction that you would like to
Yeah, again, with-
initiate? Are we
with
looking
regard
at possibly?
To the dollar amount, it's completely a board decision if the board wants to charge a fee for special events. Historically, that has not been charged, and it's just been part of the Public Works coordinating with police on how many barricades are needed and when they need to be dropped off, and that's just been part of normal operations without a fee to cover any of that expense. Again, it's all board discretion as to whether you want to charge, not charge, if charge, how much. And Cassie was just pulling together the information to share it with the board and see what direction the board wants to go.
I know the motion that I would make.
Well, it's just direction. It's not,
Yeah. Well, and I would like to see when an event does require coordination between the DPW and the police, consideration of some sort of fee. I don't think that necessarily applies in all instances,
They
but.
do pay, they do reimburse DPW and the.
No, just the police.
Just police.
Police, okay.
DPW.
I mean, we're always concerned about our budget, and if there's something that we're doing for free that requires significant enough staff time or department time, I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
I'm in support of a fee.
I'm sorry.
I said I'm in support of a fee. I think it takes resources, so office resources and other resources.
I would go with the fee if it included an extra fee for vendor permits. I know last year, or not last year, this year, some vendors forgot to get their approval. And at the last minute, they wanted to get it and we could not give it to them. I have no idea how it turned out, but I think if the person that's putting on the event said, okay, I'm having 4 vendors there, and each one's gonna pay whatever the board feels is applicable to get that, then that would all come under the 200 plus 4 vendors, let's say at 25 each. You got $300 total. And then that means that that person or persons that are having the special event, those are the vendors that are going to be there. And it kind of leaves us out of having to worry about if somebody's coming in and getting their approvals ahead of time. Because it would all be done at the same time for the permit.
But Jeff, I think the whole impetus of the discussion is to say to remove that food vendor permit special, and it gives the flexibility to the organization that's running the event to say, yeah, I want to have these, but someone dropped off, I got to pull someone else in, and not have to go through the whole process. Because the event is responsible for the food vendors. Am I understanding that right?
That was what I was originally getting at, yes.
Okay. So if we're trying to do what you're talking about, we're really not changing anything.
Well, we are in one way in that the vendors that are going to be at the event don't have to come in and apply separately. So that right there saves us some time and money in doing background checks or whatever else that needs to be done. It's all done at one time in the beginning. If somebody pulls out, I don't want to say that's not going to be our problem, but it's still going to be somewhat of an issue, but not really. Because the person that's having the special event probably talked to the food vendors and said, okay, we're going to be here. If you pull out, you're not getting your money back or whatever. I don't see any problem with that. I think it just makes staff's job so much easier if everything is brought in by the special permit, the person wanting the special event permit. And again, to Chris's point, we're spending money with the DPW and the PD coming in and doing things to prepare for all of this. But then 2 months or a month from now, everybody's going to be sitting here going, we need to find out where's all this money. We got to have money. We got to have money. Well, are we going to give this away? I mean, I'm not saying we should get rich on it, but we should be able to cover somewhat of a cost. Yes, Jim.
So I guess I will speak from experience on this one in that I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with how much some special events make in the village. Some make more than others.
Mm-hmm.
So you had mentioned about the $200 fee. On the agenda later is the Friends of the Park, which my brother and I are actually helping Park and Rec coordinate. And we are running the the beer sales there for the movie in the park night. We're probably hoping after a full day of me having to go pick up the trailer, stock it, staff it, get everything set up, all of that, 10 hours, 4 hours of selling, maybe we're going to profit $500. So you say you tack a $200 fee on it, and guess what? I'm not getting out of bed next year to help Friends of the Park. So, no, I'm just saying that if we decide to do anything of triple digits and above, that might be fine for the beach party, all that. But these smaller one-off events, for instance, when I used to operate the beer garden here and we would do the ski shows, each one of those was a special event that had to be approved, each one of those dates. So we had to get a separate liquor license for each one of those dates. So which means then of those, I think it's 13 shows, you want to start tacking on $200, of which each of those nights you maybe profited $500 to $600. You're going to kill events within the village. Park and Rec already has an imbalance of when we want to go and propose things to happen in the park, they get money from the city. They don't get as much money in their budget from the village. So then they start going, well, we should probably host this in the city park because the city kind of gave us money towards this. Well, now, if we're not running events in the village parks to give money back to Park and Rec, I hate to tell you, they're not going to do events in the village parks. So now we go into, we've already had Taste of Lake Country dropped. All right. I guarantee you, I ain't going to do events anymore if we start tacking on more paperwork and fees and everything else like that. You know, it's not, I'd rather just write a check for $300 and sit at home than spend my full day in the park throwing an event for someone.
I get it that we need to cover costs, but like the event I'm gonna be hosting this weekend is gonna have zero cost to the village, but you're still gonna tack a fee onto that other than the paperwork. I get that part. But if we start talking about no tiers, no relief for nonprofits, higher $100, $200 fees, guess what? We're probably gonna see half as many events next year. And that's not what I'm about with trying to bring people down to the downtown. So my vote is, I know there's no vote, my direction is, hey, for 1 year, let's continue with our $0 special event fee, roll the food vendors into it and see how it operates. And after that, because they already do cover the police costs if they have a special event that requires that. If we want to tax something on for DPW too, have at it. I get it covering costs. But if just throwing fees out there because we come up short in other areas, this ain't the area to do it. To start penalizing the nonprofits that want to bring people to the village. That's my stance.
Cassie, is it true, I heard one thing that you said, Jim, that the 13 events that the Park and Ski Club has, the 13 ski thing shows, that vendor has to get 13 licenses?
For temporary, yes, that's per the DOR.
That's temporary alcohol licenses.
Yes.
Not
But
the ski
special
show.
events.
Yes.
But I will say that the city does charge for special events.
Not the food vendors.
No, but for special events.
I'm comfortable with the idea of finding that threshold and right-sizing this so that we're not nickel and diming people whose events don't cause an undue burden or tap our resources.
Yeah, and to clarify, for Public Works, the only time their effort is really involved is if it's something that involves a road closure, because then they're taking the barricades out and coordinating with police department and currently with the Waterfield barricades, the fire department to come and fill those. So if it's a special event that's in the park and there's no road closures, then there's no Public Works involvement. So that would be a case where we wouldn't need to look at any type of cost recovery. So there is a way to distinguish in that if it involves a road closure, then there's X fee. If there's not, and the board doesn't want to have a fee, then there is no fee.
So if someone wanted to have a block party, we would be charging them a fee?
No, we don't charge for those right now. Those having a block party come to Public Works and pick the barricades up because it's the wooden
Right.
ones, and then they take them out. The resident comes, picks them up, and brings them back. There is no fee for that, and there
Right.
hasn't been. It's for the triathlon or beach party where they're physically closing the lakefront, for instance, where Public Works loads the barricades up on a trailer, takes them out, drops them off Thursday afternoon, and then Monday morning goes out and picks them up and brings them back.
So could we add something to the special event permit where, you know, we charge a fee for police, we just charge a fee for DPW if that's needed, and so if they don't need that,
Right.
then, you know, people don't get charged, that way we make up for it?
Yeah, right now, police is billed at an actual rate that somebody is staffed. So
Right.
if we have 5 officers out there for the entire weekend, that's always been billed through at benefit rates.
So couldn't we just add something on for the DPW and then we recover our costs and the other ones wouldn't have that issue where, you know, if we don't charge a fee, they aren't going to be charged a fee, and if they're larger event and they're actually using the time, then they would.
I like that direction.
I do too.
Yeah, that's kind of the recommendation I was going with. If you wanted to recover costs for Public Works, and an event doesn't require that, then they don't get charged. Whereas if there is the road closure, then that's a box that's checked on the application, and there's a dollar amount associated with that.
Jim, that feels comfortable?
Yeah, and like I said, as long as it also includes that the food vendor portion is taken care of with the special event permit. That's my direction.
And then with that line of thought, they'd have to get that through the county or state or whatever, and they're checking the box acknowledging that they're responsible for that process.
You did it, you guys. Good job, everyone.
You have ribbons?
Cookies.
Are there any other questions or comments? Scott, do you have an idea of what we're looking here?
I think we have some direction, thank you.
Okay.
Let us know if you want more.
Certainly.
Okay. Next item here is the discussion and possible action on mobile vehicle barrier purchase. Scott, you want to go through that?
Sure. So this is an item that was discussed during budget season last year with, and then we refined a proposal earlier this year with regard to a very mobile barricade system that is also very durable. Chief Hire Dan Ayes and I went to State Fair Park fall of last year to take a look at it ourselves, and State Fair Park police purchased the system, or I don't know how many. City of Waukesha has this barrier system in place that they've been using for at least 2023. I circled back to the vendor that has the system, and they're holding, obviously you can see in the quote that it was from April of this year. They're holding the pricing if the board wants to move forward with the purchase. In theory, one person can set these barricades up, so it's a lot easier to maneuver versus the water-filled barricades. It is a coordinated effort, and they do degrade and get damaged over time. You need fire department assistance in filling up the barricades, and then maybe some Flex Seal if the barricades leak. But this is a system that, just looking at the demo videos, it will stop a small truck, and multi-purpose in terms of using in different locations. And I can let Chief speak to his opinion on it, but I think from a staff perspective, I think we like the mobility of it, the ease of maneuvering, the ability to set it up and take it down and move it with one person.
Look, we just saved the money on the DPW special event portion too.
See? It's just gets
And not requiring fire department to fill up barricades. Yes, it's more efficient.
Comes full circle. I love it when
It would also free up probably about 8 of the water-filled barricades, the plastic ones. These would be, so we can close down the whole lakefront. We could use these for 4th of July. We could use it for graduation at WCTC. All these, so it's not just a one-done event. They're very mobile. If somebody needs to get through, one person can just slide it to allow emergency vehicle or anything else to through it. So again, they're a little pricey, but they're not going to deteriorate. They're going to be here for a long, long time.
So you had said it would stop a small truck.
Yeah, I believe the video, and we saw that in person. It's like a 6 or an 8 person bus going 45 miles an hour straight at it, and it'll stop it.
Yeah.
It'll catch it, and it won't do anything. It'll stop the whole thing, and that's what you're looking for, a barricade. The water barricades, yes, they've seen better days. The seals break, they're leaking, there's water in the streets, and they have to be positioned and filled up and taken down. So this is just something that it's a metal barricade that just is on wheels, and you can literally just roll it. If it's like this, we can just roll it like this and allow something to go by and roll it back and locks it in place. And one person can usually do it.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask, sorry,
Go ahead.
ask for a little bit of education? This sounds like a much more efficient solution, but just because I wasn't here the last time we purchased barrels, how much are the barrels and how long do they last? I know that does not include the cost of all the staff time going into filling them, et cetera, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I think the water-filled barricades are about $300 to $400 a piece. And I think we got those 4 to 6 years ago. And again, some are in probably pretty good shape, and we have some that aren't holding water very well.
Yeah, they were here before I came. I've been here 4.5 years. And
Okay, so
they
5
were,
or 6
They were in
years.
place, yeah, probably 6 years, yeah.
So about 400 per barrel, and they last 5 years if we're lucky.
Well, yeah, and that price I gave you was, from what I'm remembering,
Gotcha, so they're 1,500 per barrel.
yeah, it's probably gone up somewhat, yes.
Lead times out to 2025.
Right, you can't get any until the year 3000.
Yes.
Okay, okay. And replacement of this modular vehicle barrier system, how long do these last? A lot longer than 5 years, I would think?
It's steel and metal, so however long it takes before,
End of days, we're talking?
If someone tries to go through them, they might have to replace them.
Right.
and then we'll go after their insurance to replace them.
Exactly.
It's also a physical, I mean, if somebody sees this,
Right.
they're
They're not gonna try
thinking
it.
right to try to push by this thing.
It's preventative.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I think for the water-filled barricades we have, we might still use those to supplement or expand a protection area. But I think this would probably be the primary barrier for the main area.
Absolutely.
How many barrels do we have? Or should we have?
I want to say between 10 and 12, but
Yeah, I would say maybe, about, I was going to just off the top of my head, 13 or something like that. Yeah. Because it goes, there's pretty much 4 in each side of the street, plus some on sidewalks, plus extras. So it's not like we would just throw away these barricades.
Right.
We would just use more of them.
So for the 60,000, how many of those units are, I couldn't really determine, like, does it cover 2 ends of a street?
It would cover the, yeah, it would cover 2 ends of the street down at the lakefront.
so it'd be, I think, 30 total individual units that could connect together that you can segment however needs to be done, but
Jeff Lennius just took a class last week on the Waukesha Christmas Parade, and I asked him this morning, and he said they bought about $800,000 immediately after the parade, looking to target harden any future parades. And these would be at every parade. We use 4th of July and Memorial Day parade and graduations and anything else where there's a police presence needed.
Well,
So it's not just for the beach party or 4th of July, it would be more other events.
Heather?
but you'd need lots of them for.
Oh, yeah, you could do it for every street the other thing we do as squad cars. So some of these intersections, we put a squad car out there. And this is basically, the primary would be for 4th of July, beach party, to lock those areas down, because that has, I mean, if you have 10,000 people down at the lakefront, you're putting these things at both sides and stopping anything that comes through. But we would use them also for Memorial Day parade. We put in an intersection and supplement it with a squad car, and we could supplement it with barricades. But we look at every single intersection is a potential threat. But that's why we use different things.
How many will this cover, Chief? How many?
This would be about just the front by the blue condos and by Lake Brewers too. So just those 2 areas. Curb to curb, that's it. Yeah, and we'd still use the water barricades also to supplement on sidewalks.
But you said they're also modular, so if you need a bigger
you-
area to cover somewhere else, like a WCTC parking lot or something, you can put more together and create one large barricade
Yes.
versus 2 small ones.
Yeah, you could, if we really had a lot of money and we wanted to drop $500,000, we could put them all over the place. Yeah.
We'll add it to the list.
Yeah,
These won't stop a medium-duty truck, like a box truck.
Yeah, these they had like and there's videos you can look online and watch for this product, and I think it's like an 8-passenger, like an 8-passenger white travel van, a little higher, 45 miles straight into it, and it just catches it. It just stops it. I mean, it might move back a few feet, but it will just stop in its tracks.
Will it stop one of those, like, Ford F-150?
So yeah, it would stop that because it's similar to like an 8-passenger bus. But when asked would it stop a semi, they didn't practice with a semi. They didn't practice with a dump truck or something like that. They looked at, is it going to stop a car or a larger truck or a pickup truck? And the answer is yes. And then they didn't say, well, what if it's going 60 miles an hour instead of 45 miles? They didn't play. We asked those questions, but they said, this is the,
It's designed to like high point the vehicle, basically take the wheels off the ground.
Correct. Yeah.
So it runs up on it and it rotates it up to where it
You're
lifts the
stuck.
vehicle off and stops it.
That was my next question, because they look kind of low.
and again, there's a video online that you can just watch, and it shows demonstrations.
No, I was just, when I looked at these, and I thought they were pretty nice and that, but I thought there were some other ones out there that actually would stop a medium-duty box truck and actually dead track and smash the whole front end blocks in.
Well, I think a 8-person buses or a transport box truck would be like a medium-sized truck. I think that's what they take into consideration. And again, you're looking at Waukesha vetted these and made that choice, and State Fair Park did the same thing. So it's not like we're being the test person for this product. This is a product that other departments are using also.
Yeah, and this is a product, looking through the marketing material, when we first started looking at this, that is used around the globe.
And we weren't the only, when State Fair Park brought the rep into, prior to the fair, I mean, we were a room full of people. I mean, they had jurisdictions from all over the place come to watch the demonstration in the parking lot and in a conference room.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
And we're talking about using infrastructure funds, and if the numbers that you're projecting in the budget hold for the rest of this year, we're going to be adding a significant amount of money into the infrastructure fund, aren't we? So that's going to be a lot more flush than it is today.
Yes.
Now, that when I talked to Scott about this, when we look at next year's budget, we were buying 2 cars at a pop at $58,000. We bought 2 of them this year. Next year, we're buying 1 car. So it's like an off year where if you had to free up some money, at least you're not, you're used to paying for 2 cars, squad cars, and this is a year when we have 1 off, so we're just buying 1.
No, I think the infrastructure fund is the right place to
Yeah.
start from.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to purchase the modular vehicle barriers as presented today for $59,980 using the infrastructure funds.
Second, Grabowski.
Jim, did you second?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Discussion and possible action regarding 2023 trick-or-treat date and time. Again, another really hot item. Scott?
We may be here late.
I know.
And we have gotten calls on this one as far back as 2 to 3 weeks ago, I believe. So, again, the city has established their trick-or-treat day for the last Saturday of October. Historically, the 2 communities have had the same trick-or-treat date and time. So that's what we're presenting to the board for consideration. And I guess direction for long-term, if there's a desire to have trick-or-treat be the last, I think other communities have like the last Saturday of October versus revisiting this every year. We can certainly look at pursuing that, bring it back to the board. So it's not an annual
That's a great idea.
decision-making.
And you'll save yourself a few phone calls too.
Because there are some weird years where the way the weeks fall. What if we just always say the Saturday before Halloween? Because there are some times where there's another Saturday.
What if it falls on Saturday?
Even better.
On or before.
There you go.
On or before. Yeah, it's like the closest Saturday without going over.
Okay, Bob Barker.
Yeah, Bob Barker, yeah.
So are there any other questions or comments? The action tonight is to have the Saturday, October 28th from 4 to 7. And then we can bring the other discussion back.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 trick or treat dates with direction to staff for future date consideration.
Second, Gergen.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion is hereby carried. Discussion and possible action on elimination of the deputy clerk treasurer, account finance clerk administrative assistant positions, and approval of deputy clerk and deputy treasurer positions. Cassie?
All right. Sorry, let me just get to where so we're bringing this back. We talked last meeting about the ability to eliminate what is Vicky's job right now after she retires, the accounts payable admin assistant, and add a full-time treasurer or deputy treasurer and a full-time deputy clerk. It seemed as though the board was favored it, and so we came up with job descriptions, and we're looking for your feedback.
Questions or comments from the board?
I think we indicated, we're in favor of this. Personally, as I read through the job descriptions, I basically look to you guys. You know what you do every day. I don't, so if you guys are comfortable with it, I'm comfortable because I wouldn't even know what to tell you to change or correct.
Exactly. You need to eliminate these.
I did after a while wonder, well, what are they going to do?
Yeah. Nothing.
Just kidding.
Are there any other questions or comments? Somebody like to make a motion for what is proposed here?
Motion to act on eliminating the deputy clerk and treasurer and account finance clerk administrative assistant positions with the approval of a deputy clerk and deputy treasurer position.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby adopted. Review and direction on proposed salary range adjustment for non-represented positions, possible action on establishment of salary ranges for deputy clerk and deputy treasurer positions. Cassie again, or Scott?
I'll take this one. Included with the packet is a copy of the salary survey I did with our peer communities, which are outlined by the salary plan that was created several years back. And with regard to the current and proposed, those are the two separate blue lines. The first one for each category is the current range, and then the second line is the proposed range. Looking at the different classifications or the different communities and our positions, would recommend a 5% increase in the range. And again, that doesn't mean everybody's automatically getting a 5% increase in wages. It's just we're adjusting the range to be market competitive with our surrounding communities. Doesn't mean that in every case we're going to be high end at the top of each salary classification and range. No, or we're always going to be at the bottom. No, we're trying to find that fine point of being competitive, but not necessarily trying to be a trendsetter on being too high, but also trying to be competitive on the start range. As you can tell, there are communities out there that don't have salary ranges, so it's kind of hard to say every single circumstance has a range and we're going to be within it, but that's where I also look to where if there is no range, what's the current salary at? Just to be competitive with that as well.
So Scott, are any of the positions currently at the minimum?
At the minimum, I think we might have one utility employee looking at if the range is adjusted upwards, that might be a couple $100 off of the minimum going into '24. But again, that employee is also would have their merit evaluation, and I think we'd also need to look at current salaries, I think, on our utility operators, just to look at where they're at, to see if we need to do any kind of market adjustment in addition to merit, just to be competitive.
Have you done projections as to what this would change for us? For different, whoever's at a minimum, just so that we would have people, you know, if we're going to have to give people increases or anything like that?
I think the main ones, I think our equipment operators have been brought up brought on this year between the mid to the high end of the range, just knowing where the market is with our peer communities. And I think utility operators are probably going to be the main ones where we need to look at market adjustments. Looking at the other positions, I think we're generally competitive to where our peer communities are.
Scott, when was the last time we adjusted the ranges?
1 year ago. And former trustee Hill asked for it to be brought back again this year instead of waiting a couple of years.
Any other comments or questions? Do we have some direction here from the board as to how you would like this handled?
Oh, the one other point before getting direction is just consideration on the mechanics. Right now, again, that's a competitive position to fill, as is engineers. And so I'd ask for consideration to look at adjusting that range from a grade 9 to a grade 10, which basically would move it up 3,000 on the low end and about 3,000 on the high end of the salary range. So the range would be 52 to 70 versus 49 to 66. And I know we're in talking with a local repair shop just down Hickory Street. Mechanics are difficult to hire as well.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, it's something we have to do to remain competitive. Adjusting the ranges it allows the managers to make the adjustments necessary constantly without having to come to us to get exceptions. And again, I don't even know if this is going to get us to where we need to be. It's still going to be an issue, but it's something we need to do.
I would be fine with switching the mechanic to a grade 10, if that's something that you would need to do soon in order to find people for the position. How many open positions do we currently have?
We've got the mechanic, the streets maintenance, 2 street maintenance. There's a utility operator position, but I think we just started advertising for that one.
No.
Not yet? Okay. We will be advertising for a utility operator to backfill the promotion of an employee to utility supervisor. So we got 3, the 2 streets, the mechanic, public works director, engineer, and soon to be a utility operator.
And are we interviewing for any of those yet?
Have people apply for them?
What?
I said if people apply for them.
Yeah, we've had one interview on a mechanic. Working to try and schedule one for DPW engineer. I think we're relooking at applications for street maintenance and still getting some in. The challenge on street maintenance is finding people that have a CDL, which is a requirement to use the plow trucks, which is a critical component. And with the federal changes on CDL requirements and training, that's making those positions, those employees, the people that have a CDL more marketable for over-the-road trucking positions, which can pay significantly more than municipalities. So we're trying, and we've got it out in every location we can in terms of posting.
Any other questions or comments? If not, Scott, you have enough?
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, wait, but there's a possible action on the deputy clerk and deputy treasurer positions if you want to make
The
that.
component of that, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, forgot about that. Would somebody like to make a motion as it relates to the salary ranges for deputy clerk and deputy treasurer position?
Okay, so what you're proposing is the pay range for both of those is the same?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the established salary ranges for deputy clerk and deputy treasurer positions as noted.
And should we add mechanic onto that to switch the grade?
Oh, yeah.
Can we
Well,
do
that's
that?
not,
It's not-
that's not agenda.
Yeah, that's not
specific. I
agendized.
appreciate that, and we'll have this
Yeah.
back for the next meeting.
Alrighty.
No, thank you.
Heather, you seconded, right?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Discussion and possible action on Class B temporary alcohol license for Friends of the Park, September 8th in Kiwanis Village Park. Does anybody have any questions or comments as it relates to that?
I'll make a motion to approve the temporary Class B retailer license for Friends of the Park.
Second.
Who wants it? Gergen.
I just have a question. I noticed in the information that this is the first time that they would be serving alcohol during the movie?
Negative,
Huh?
negative.
And that's what it said on the thing.
For Friends of the Parks, Winnebago hosted the last movie in the park night back in 2020, and it was a big success with Mauritius.
I was just wondering what kind of movie we were showing.
No, that's what I'm saying. So this is the first time for Friends of the Park, whatever. But it's
No, I was looking for the movie.
It's a kids movie.
Oh, it's a kids movie.
And they
Oh,
get,
it is?
So they
Okay.
get better with beer.
I was just wondering.
So it's something to help the parent, mom,
Right.
help her to
suffer through.
I see.
Yet another viewing.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. There are no more citizens here this evening, so we will skip the citizen comments and go right into the Village Board of the Village of Pewaukee will enter a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 1985 1E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Specifically regarding collective bargaining agreement, Pewaukee Police Association pursuant to Wisconsin Section 1985 1G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is entering or oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to the litigation which it is or is likely to become involved specifically regarding Wisconsin manufacturers and commerce and High Z revocable trust and notice of claim from West Bend Mutual. I will look for a motion to go into closed session.
Motion go in closed session.
Second, Rhodey.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Gergen?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodey?
Yes.
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Trustee Krasovich?
Yes.
Trustee Roberts?
Yes.
Trustee Grabowski?
Yes.
President Knutson?
Yes, we are in closed session. Thank you. Is there anyone down there? No? Okay. Okay, item 11 this evening is possible action on disallowance of claim. Does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the disallowance as presented.
Second, Gergen?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Item 12 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, Gergen?
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for